Kristi Noem just stood before cameras and said, "No American citizens have been arrested or detained in these ICE raids. None. Zero." But that's not just a lie. It's one of the boldest, most dangerous falsehoods yet. Because the truth? Americans have been detained. Veterans, business owners, elderly citizens, people with every right to call this country home. And their stories are not just heartbreaking, they're proof that this administration's war on immigrants is bleeding over into a war on American civil rights.
I'm sorry, Kristi Noem just said what?
There's no American citizens have been arrested or detained. We focus on those that are here illegally.
That no American citizen had been arrested or detained?
No American citizen.
It is hard to continue to be stunned by the falsehoods coming out of the administration, but this is such a provable, palpable lie. Watching Kristi Noem kind of reminds me of Rose Byrne in this scene from Irresistible.
I lie, and you know I lie. I'm actually in this position because of how effectively I lie to you.
And indeed, this seems to be par for the course with Trump appointees. They seem to be chosen for the brazenness with which they lie, with which they're willing to deceive the American people, the bravado in which they make their false claims. It really does take your breath away. So when Kristi Noem says that no American citizen has been arrested or detained,
no American citizen.
That is just plain false, and it's important for people to know it. And how do we know it? Because we know their stories. There are about 170 American citizens who have been arrested or detained as part of these immigration raids. But here's the stories of just a few. So this is George Reedus, a U.S. citizen and a veteran from Ventura County. Let's hear what he went through.
On July 10th, I was driving to my security job at a farm in Southern California when I ran into an ICE roadblock and protesters. I explained to agents I was a citizen and just trying to get to work. Moments later, chaos broke out. Tear gas filled the area and I couldn't move my car. Agents smashed my window, pepper sprayed me, dragged me out, and knelt on my neck and back. Agents never checked my ID. They detained me for 3 days. No phone call, no lawyer, not even a shower to wash off the pepper spray. My family had no idea where I was, and I missed my daughter's 3rd birthday.
And this is Rafi Olashuid, the 79-year-old owner of a Los Angeles area car wash, who was body slammed by agents, breaking his ribs and causing a traumatic brain injury. Let's hear his story.
Surveillance video shows federal agents body slamming 79-year-old American citizen Rafi Shohed just outside of his car wash in Van Nuys roughly 2 weeks ago. This after Rafi says agents stormed into his business and roughed him up after he attempted to ask what they needed. He says upon making it outside, the agents pummeled him again.
I have a heart condition. 3 big people were sitting on my back, the way they tore me down, sitting on me, and I asked them to let me go, which they absolutely would not pay no attention.
Rafi says he was terrified as he tried to explain to the agents that his employees were authorized to be on the job. Yet he says they took at least 5 of his employees away in handcuffs. He says he screamed that he is an American citizen and had proof in his wallet, but he says his pleas fell on deaf ears.
The only word they say, you do not F with ICE. You do not F with ICE. You do not F with ICE.
Rafi says he suffered multiple broken ribs, damage to his brain from being slammed head first into the ground, and deep bruising and swelling to his arms from being restrained. He was detained at a federal detention center for nearly a dozen hours before finally being released, his family taking him to the hospital.
And this is Jose Hermosillo, a U.S. citizen who was jailed for 9 days in Arizona. He was accused of being in the U.S. illegally, a claim that he didn't understand they were even making because of his learning disability. Let's hear what he went through.
They were saying I'm from Mexico, but I'm a U.S. citizen.
No matter how many times Jose told Border Patrol agents he's a U.S. citizen, they didn't believe him, and eventually he found himself sitting in the Florence Correctional Center, cold, hungry, and terrified.
And this is the case of Andrea Velez, a U.S. citizen who was detained by ICE agents, accused of obstructing an arrest before her case was ultimately dismissed. Here's what she has to say.
I take it day by day.
That day, June 24th, Velez says her mom and sister had just dropped her off at work.
It was like a scene, like they were just ready to attack and chase.
Velez describes seeing unmarked cars and masked men in civilian clothing going after people.
And all I felt was that he grabbed and just slammed me to the floor.
Velez says she tried to tell the plainclothes agent who arrested her that she's a U.S. citizen.
He said that I was interfering with what he was doing, so he was going to arrest me. And that's when I asked him to show me his badge number, his ID, identification. I asked him for if he had a warrant, and he said I didn't need to know any of that.
So how is this happening in the United States of America? Well, these indiscriminate raids and arrests that are taking place have been challenged in court. The Supreme Court of the United States has decided it will let this practice go on. It will let the indiscriminate arrest and detention of people go on until the case works its way all the way through the courts to the Supreme Court and they finally render judgment. So that's what the justices have decided to do, a majority of them. And this was Justice Kavanaugh trying to explain his reasoning.
Citizens shouldn't be concerned. If the officers learn that the individual they stopped is a U.S. citizen or otherwise lawfully in the United States, Kavanaugh wrote, they promptly let the individual go.
So Kavanaugh claims that people are being released immediately. That is simply not true. And he was willing to put his head in the sand in order to issue that kind of a ruling. I think a far more accurate description of the situation was that expressed by Justice Sotomayor writing in dissent. U.S. citizens risked being, quote, grabbed, thrown to the ground, and handcuffed simply because of their looks, their accents, and the fact they make a living by doing manual labor. And it's not just what the justices have allowed in this case. As Justice Sotomayor made clear in a recent interview, it is also what breaking the precedent means. That is, breaking the Supreme Court precedent that holds that such indiscriminate arrests and detentions are unlawful, allowing them to continue. What she explains is that this could lead to other people, other groups, other situations in the future where people have their rights taken away from them.
What makes Kristi Noem's statement so disturbing isn't just the dishonesty, it's the confidence. The way she said it, as if facts no longer matter, as if the truth is optional. She didn't stumble or hedge, she flatly denied reality. But here's what she's really denying: the lived experiences of real Americans who have already suffered under her administration's policies. George Reedus, a U.S. citizen, a veteran, beaten, pepper-sprayed, and detained for 3 days without cause. Rafi Olashwood, 79 years old, assaulted, ribs broken, brain injured, his only crime being brown and in the wrong place when ICE agents decided to play judge and jury. Jose Hermosillo, jailed for 9 days despite being a citizen, terrified and confused because of a learning disability. These aren't abstract policy debates, these are human beings. American citizens who were stripped of their dignity, their safety, and their rights by an unchecked system empowered by lies like Noem's. And when she insists that no American citizens have been detained, she's not just misinformed, she's participating in a deliberate rewriting of reality. Because if you erase the truth, if you deny the existence of victims, then you erase accountability itself. The Supreme Court's refusal to halt these raids only deepens the crisis. Justice Kavanaugh's claim that innocent people are released immediately is provably false. Justice Sotomayor's dissent cuts through the illusion, warning that what we normalize today becomes precedent tomorrow. What's allowed against immigrants today can easily be used against anyone tomorrow. So the real story here isn't just Kristi Noem's lie, it's what that lie enables: the erosion of civil rights, the normalization of state violence, and the silencing of Americans who don't fit a political narrative. At this point, the question is simple: how much longer will we let elected officials weaponize misinformation to excuse human suffering? Because when we accept lies as leadership, democracy itself begins to rot from within. If this doesn't shake you, it should, because it's not about left or right anymore. It's about truth versus propaganda, humanity versus political theater. If you believe in accountability, if you believe facts still matter, then it's time to call it what it is: a bold, dangerous lie that cannot stand unchallenged. If you found this breakdown important, don't just scroll away. Subscribe to Left Lens, where we pull back the curtain, expose the spin, and tell the stories the powerful want buried. Because the truth deserves a platform.